everybody, and welcome to a special edition of MSB Weekly. I'm Adam Gotkin, and today we've got something different. I'll be previewing the Washington football team's upcoming wildcard game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First off, I'll be going over a few of the storylines to look out for, a couple key matchups, and then my general game prediction at the end of this. So with that, let's get right into it. First up, as I said, the biggest storyline and what everyone's going to be watching for. How will the Washington defense do against the explosive Tampa Bay offense? Tampa Bay, of course, led by the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. Washington led by their front four, specifically NFC Defensive Player and NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month, Chase Young, and on the other side, Montez Sweat. So that matchup is going to be one of the biggest ones to look out for if Washington's pass defense, led by, of course, their front, can stop Tampa Bay. Washington has the third best pass defense when it comes to rating, second best when it comes to yard per game, and third best when it comes to yards per attempt. On the other hand, Brady has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Over 40 years old, Tom Brady is having one of the best years of his career, and it's going to be a really big thing to see if Washington can stop them. I think the biggest part of this game that we have to look out for is the big plays. Washington has allowed the fewest passes over 20 yards this season, while Brady has allowed the third most passes over 20 yards. Sorry, he has thrown the third most passes over 20 yards this season. So that's going to be really big to see what happens there. And the guys who he's going to be throwing to is not going to be easy to stop for Washington. Of course, Mike Evans over 1,000 yards this year, but he's got an injury he's been dealing with. It's not 100% if Evans will play or not. He's currently questionable. I've been seeing some things say he's definitely not going to play, some things saying he's definitely going to. With that, we can mostly expect it's going to be a game-time decision, but if he plays or not is going to be absolutely huge to determine the outcome of this game. And Evans is not even close to just the weapons that Brady has. He also has Chris Godwin, 840 yards for Godwin, and he missed 4 games. If you add in those 4 games, that's probably another 1,000-yard receiver. Then Antonio Brown, of course, all of the scandals with Brown the past couple of years, but he is still an amazing wide receiver, only 483 yards for this season, but he did not play anywhere close to the full season. That would have been a lot more. And outside of those 3 receivers, they've got more weapons just in the pass game. Rob Gronkowski, of course, he came out of retirement, 623 yards, 7 touchdowns for Gronkowski. And I think those guys are going to be really hard to stop for the Washington defense, even though their pass defense is so good. I mean, it's 3-star receivers. If they're all playing, it's going to be really hard for Washington to stay in this game. If Evans is out, that makes it a lot easier. Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby are 2 really good cornerbacks, but if they have the third, I don't know if, Jimmy Moreland, Fabian Monroe, I don't know if they have the power to just keep up with 3-star receivers. And then Gronk, Washington is known for not being able to cover tight ends. None of their linebackers are going to be able to cover Gronk, Holcomb, Kevin Peart, Louis Bostic. None of those guys are going to be able to cover Gronk, so it's going to have to be someone like Cameron Curl, who's undersized but really good. He's been rated one of the steals of the draft out of the 7th round out of Arkansas, starting at safety. He's been really good, and he might have to stop Gronk, which is not going to be easy at all. 3rd in points per game, 7th in yards per game. Tampa Bay offense just absolutely insane, and a lot of that also due to their offensive line, who's allowed the 4th least amount of sacks in the entire NFL. Their offensive line is one of the least talked about things. When we talk about them, we think about their weapons, but their offensive line is also really, really good. They are really good, and it's not going to be easy for Chase Young and Montez Sweat and Jonathan Allen and De'Aaron Payne and even Tim Settle to get there because their defense is so good. But if they can, and if they can get there early, that's where we talk about this being a close game. If they don't, this will be completely separate. I meant to mention this at the beginning. I'm still going to be doing my keys to the game before live on Twitter, so make sure to check that out, DC Side of Maryland Sports, when that happens. This is going to be different. I'm going to give one of my keys now. You need at least 3 to 4 sacks, minimum 5, I think, if they're going to win this game. At least 2 sacks in the first quarter with that. Brady has kind of become a guy where when he gets pressure, he starts to struggle a lot. And if you can pressure him early on, that really changes games. The teams that have beaten Tampa Bay this year did it because they were able to pressure Tom Brady. That's become the key to beating Tampa Bay. If you pressure Tom Brady, you've really got a chance to win, and that's going to be the most important thing. Get to him, get to him, get to him. He can't scramble. What he does is he steps up in the pocket, and with De'Aaron Payne and John Allen, they're going to be there if he tries to step up, so they cannot create lanes for him to be there. They've got to get sacks, and that's going to be the biggest thing. And even with all of that pass game, they've got Tom Brady. They also have a really good running game. Jones, their starting running back, just under 1,000 yards on the year, averaged over 5 yards a carry, just over 5 yards at 5.1 yards per carry. He's not at all easy to stop. And then they also have Leonard Fournette. The weapons just never stop here. And it's going to be really hard for Washington's defense to be able to keep up with them. Washington has had one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they have a chance to cement themselves as, arguably the best defense for the future of the NFL. I'm not saying right now if they win this game, but if they win this game, you can make a clear argument that in the future they are setting themselves up to clearly be the best defense in the NFL. They're having so many young guys contribute. Their whole front four is young. Cameron Curl is young. Cole Holcomb is young. They've got a lot of young guys, and there's a lot to look forward to, and this is going to be their biggest test. If they can do that, I have a good feeling. And the last 3 games, it's been really weird. It's going to be completely different from the last 3 games that we've seen. Tom Brady's not Jalen Hurts. Tom Brady's not Teddy Bridgewater. Tom Brady is not Russell Wilson. So they're going to have to get ready to readjusting against not a mobile quarterback that they've played the last 3 weeks and that they've struggled against. They're known for struggling against mobile quarterbacks. Now they're going to go back to a pocket passer. If I, talk about this game about anything else, it's like that Steelers game. If they're going to win this game, it's going to be like how they won that Steelers game. They were able to get to Big Ben there and force him to make some not great passes. They just have a harder time bringing him down than you have bringing Tom Brady down. But that's going to be a similar game. If they can do what they did against the Steelers, knocking off the undefeated Steelers back then, one of the biggest upsets all year, that'll be a big thing, and I think that's going to really help them win. At least 5 sacks, like I said. Now into the other side of the field, Washington's offense versus Tampa Bay's defense. It's in the same spot. It's the exact same spot where this game is going to count, in the trenches. All of this game comes down to line play. Tampa Bay has one of the best rush defenses in the NFL, if not the best rush defense. They've only allowed 3.6 yards per carry. They're just something special there. Their rush defense is really good. Washington's going to have to establish the run if they're going to win this game. Antonio Gibson's had a great rookie year, averaging 4.7 yards per carry, but he's been playing with his turf toe injury, nasty turf toe injury, not at all easy to play through, missed a couple games with it. And it's going to be really interesting to see if Gibson can do anything. I say this every week on the pregame, halftime, postgame show. Give the ball to Gibson. Gibson's good. Gibson's a rookie. Just give it to him. The offensive line has been really good on the run this year, and they're going to have to be really good against just an outstanding rush defense against Tampa Bay. Over on the passing side, Alex Smith should start. From everything that I've heard, Alex Smith should play. Same with Antonio Gibson. They're questionable. Smith should play. I think if Alex Smith is not any better than he was against Philly, he should not be playing. He was not mobile at all, and against the Tampa pass rush, you need to be able to be mobile because they have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. I think this is where I'm stuck. I don't think you can put Heineke in, as Chase Young likes to say, Heineke, but I don't think you can put Heineke in a game like this. I don't think you can put Taylor Heineke in. His first start since, 2018 with the Panthers. He had 3 interceptions, got hurt that game. I don't think you can put him in over Alex Smith. Yes, he looked good against Carolina, but Carolina was not playing like a normal defense plays. Carolina was allowing everything in the flat, and I don't know if we've seen enough from him. Yes, he's more mobile than Smith, but I don't know. Maybe they'll go with the quarterback crew, but how often does that work? How often does having 2 quarterbacks play work? Different cadences, the offensive line can get messed up. I don't see how that's going to work. But if Alex Smith does start, I feel confident. Alex Smith has been 5-1 as the starting quarterback, and this team has won 7 games. Without Alex Smith at quarterback, if we do the quick math, they are 2-8. With Smith, 5-1. Just that difference, I think, is enough to be, yes, it doesn't matter. He is good enough to be the starting quarterback, and he's going to have a really good game with that. He's going to have to give the ball to Terry McLaurin, over 1,000 yards this year for the sophomore, and he's got to have a big game. They're going to have to go to him deep, I think, if they want a chance to win. Tampa Bay does not have the greatest pass defense in the NFL. 21st in yards per game, 29th in completion percentage. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL when it comes to completion percentage. They're going to have to use that kind of. But with that, even their defense is one of the best in the NFL. 8th least point per games and 6th least yards per games allowed. But they're going to have to go to Terry McLaurin, their star. They're going to have to give him the ball. Logan Thomas is going to have a big game. Most touchdowns on the team, Logan Thomas. He's had 72 catches. He's had a great year. J.D. McKissick is going to have a big game. He's had 80 catches this year, just absolutely insane. And then they're going to have other guys step up. Whether it's Steven Sims or Cam Sims, one of those guys is going to have to step up. Inman, if he plays, someone's going to have to step up there, and they're going to have to do something. And then the offensive line's going to have to step up. 29 in sacks allowed this year for Washington defense. That's just not good. And, Tampa is tied for the 4th most sacks in the NFL. Jason Pierre-Paul is just outstanding. And Dominican Sue, they've got 2 linebackers who can get sacks. But, 4 guys over 5 sacks for Tampa Bay. They're going to have to stop them. If they can't, if Smith can't move, I don't think Washington really has the chance. And, key matchups, I was talking about it. Key matchups, I think the biggest thing is just the offensive line of Washington versus the defensive line of Tampa, and reverse. I think that's the matchups to look out for. That's the keys. This game's going to be won in the trenches. And, now down to my game prediction. No one has Washington winning this game. All 10 experts on NFL's game preview had Tampa Bay winning, and most of them winning by a lot. And I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to have Washington win this game, but I don't think in any way this is going to be a blowout. Washington this whole season has played on being the underdog. They've played on everyone's counted them out. They've had a coach through cancer, a team change name, one of the worst front office situations in the NFL. You can never count out this Washington football team. They can do anything. Hell, I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to go say they're going to win a Super Bowl, but they can do anything. You never know what's going to happen with them. They've shocked the world. They've beat Pittsburgh, and then they've also shocked the world and almost lose to Philly. So maybe they'll play like they did against Pittsburgh and Dallas, or they'll play like they did against Philly. Hopefully it's not the latter of the two, but we never know what's going to happen. If the defense shows up and the offense shows up, maybe they can win. But I think I'm not going to go with the bold decision and say Washington's going to win. I think you have to say Tampa. You have to. I don't think you can say Washington's just going to win just because of all of the stats that we see. Great rush offense, great rush defense for Tampa, great pass offense. Pass defense is not the greatest, but it's good enough. And against Alex Smith, I think it's not going to matter how good or bad their secondary is if they can get to him. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be very low scoring. I take the under. I have Washington losing to Tampa Bay 21-17. I think one of those touchdowns, too, for Washington is going to come defensively. So I think they only score 10 points offensively. But 21-17 pretty much means that if there's one game-changing play, then anything can happen. I'm not ruling out Washington. I think I'm thinking in my mind about 65% chance Tampa Bay wins, and then the latter, I guess, 35% chance Washington wins. That's not off anything analytically. That's just kind of a gut feeling. But, with everything, looking at all of the stuff that I've looked into, I just don't see a way that Tampa blows out this Washington team the way that they've played this year. And I don't see a way that Washington wins. Their last playoff win was against Tampa Bay. I'll give them that. Tampa Bay hasn't won a playoff game in a long time. I think 18 years, around there. More than 10 years. It's been a long time for Washington, too. Washington's last playoff win, like I said, against Tampa Bay back in 2005. But yeah, Tampa Bay 21-17 is my guess. But I don't think you can rule out Washington. At the same time, I think I would have Washington win if it wasn't the Washington football team. If this was the Bears playing the Bucs, exact same stats, take everything else, I'd have the Bears winning, and that's a Bears team that is notorious for just losing close games. But it's the thing in my head of being a third generation, I guess, Washingtonian, someone who's been around Washington football team since they were born. It's all I've kind of known is losing these games, losing these playoff games. Of course, RG3 tearing his ACL, losing to the Packers with Kirk Cousins. I don't see a way that they win in the playoffs at this point. Maybe the culture changes there, and then after that they have to play the Packers, and that won't be easy. But you never know. 8 o'clock game on NBC. Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy, I believe. Thank God it's not Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth. They were absolutely horrific last week, and I love Michaels and Collinsworth, but just they were too focused on storytelling and not focused enough on the game. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Washington football game preview. Yeah, that's all that I have. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on Twitter at Maryland Sports Blog. Check out the website for everything. I'll be doing my keys to the game and a final game prediction, game preview on the DC side of Maryland Sports Twitter page at around probably 8 o'clock, 7:50, depending on the total kickoff time for the Washington game. Over on the DC side of Maryland Sports Twitter, I'll be live. Make sure to ask questions there. I'll post that on Twitter to ask questions. Make sure to ask those. Thank you all so much for tuning in for the Washington Football pregame show, MSB Weekly Special. I'm Adam Gotkin. Thank you all so much.